Friends, welcome to my channel. Dhanesh here. Friends, welcome to my channel. Dhanesh here. Cluster analysis or clustering is the task of grouping a set of objects in such a way that objects in the same group are more similar to each other than to those in other groups. In data mining and statistics, hierarchical clustering is a method of cluster analysis which seeks to build a hierarchy of clusters. Partitional clustering and partitional clustering are clustering methods used to classify observations within a data set into multiple groups based on their similarity. K-means clustering is an example. Hierarchical clustering is a type of unsupervised machine learning algorithm used to cluster unlabeled data points. Like K-means clustering, hierarchical clustering also groups together the data points with similar characteristics. In some cases, the result of hierarchical and K-means clustering can be similar. Before implementing hierarchical clustering using scikit-learn, let's first understand the theory behind hierarchical clustering. Next is the theory of hierarchical clustering. There are two types of hierarchical clustering, agglomerative and divisive. In the former, data points are clustered using a bottom-up approach starting with individual data points, while in the later, top-down approach is followed where all the data points are treated as one big cluster and the clustering process involves dividing one big cluster into several small clusters. In this video, we will focus on agglomerative clustering that involves the bottom-up approach. Different steps in hierarchical clustering. Following are the steps involved in agglomerative clustering. At the start, treat each data point as one cluster. Therefore, the number of clusters at the start will be k, where k is an integer representing the number of data points. From a cluster, by joining the two closest data points resulting in k1 clusters. From more clusters, by joining the two closest clusters resulting in k2 clusters. Repeat the above three steps until one big cluster is formed. Once single cluster is formed, dendrograms are used to divide into multiple clusters depending upon the problem. We will study the concept of dendrogram in detail in the coming videos. There are different ways to find distance between the clusters. The distance itself can be Euclidean or Manhattan distance. Following are some of the options to measure distance between two clusters. Measure the distance between the closest points of two clusters. Measure the distance between the furthest point of uh, two clusters. Measure the distance between the centroids of two clusters. Measure the distance between all possible combinations of points between the two clusters and take the mean.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Thanks a lot.
We will perform a hierarchical clustering on real world data and see how it can be used to solve an actual problem. This is the data set I am using: customer ID, gender, age, annual income, spending score. These are all the columns. The problem that we are going to solve in this section is to segment customers into different groups based on their shopping trends. The data set is shown here. Now, The data set is saved as shopping data .csv file into the datasets folder. Here it's I have saved in the D column. To cluster this data into groups, we will follow the same steps um, that we discussed in the theory. Next is to import the data set for it. Yeah, it's stored under D colon Tatomasi like that. Let's explore our data set a bit. To check the number of records and attributes, execute the following script. The script above return 200 comma 5, which means that the dataset contains 200 records and 5 attributes. To eyeball the dataset, execute the head function of the data frame. Take a look at the script. The output looks like this. Our dataset has 5 columns: customer ID, gender, age, annual income, and spending score. To view the results in two-dimensional feature space, we will retain only 2 of these 5 columns. We can remove customer ID column, gender, and age column. We will retain the annual income in thousands of dollars and spending score 1 to 100 columns. The spending core column signifies how often a person spends money in a mall on a scale of 1 to 100, with 100 being the highest spender. Execute the next script to filter the first 3 columns in our data set. Next, we need to know the clusters that we want our data to split to. We will again use the SCPy library to create the dendrograms for our dataset. Execute the next script. In the script above, we import the hierarchy class of the SCPy cluster library as SHC. The hierarchy class is a dendrogram method which takes the value returned by the linkage method of the same class. The linkage method takes the dataset and the method to minimize the distances as parameters. We use var as the method since it minimizes the variance of distance between the clusters. The output is shown here. If we draw a horizontal line that passes through longest distance without a horizontal line, we get 5 clusters as shown in the uh, you know theory part we discussed about this. Next, we know the number of clusters for our data set. The next step is to group the data points into these 5 clusters. To do so, we will again use the agglomerative clustering class of the sklearn.cluster library. So the output of the script above looks like this. You can see the cluster labels from all of your data points. Since we had 5 clusters, we have 5 labels in the output, that is 0 to 4. As a final step, let's plot the clusters to see how actually our data has been clustered. The output of the code looks like this. You can see the data points in the form of 5 clusters. The data points in the bottom right belong to the customers with high salaries but low spending. These are all customers that spend their money carefully. Similarly, the customers at top right, green data points, these are customers with high salaries and high spending. These are the type of customers that companies target. The customers in the middle, that is blue data points, are the ones with average income and average salaries. The highest number of customers belongs to the category this category. Companies can also target these customers given the fact that they are in huge numbers. The clustering technique can be very handy when it comes to unlabeled data, since most of the data in the real world is unlabeled and annotating the data has higher cost. Clustering techniques can be used to label unlabeled data.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Thanks a lot.